The human brain processes 11 million bits of information every second, yet we are only aware of 40 bits. What happens to the rest? For most people, this information simply fades into the background noise of existence. But for the overthinker, those hidden millions never stop screaming. You know who you are. You are the person who lies awake at 3 in the morning, replaying a conversation from 6 months ago. You are the one who sees patterns where others see coincidence. You question everything while others accept everything. You feel like you are living in a different reality than the rest of the world. The ancient Greeks had a word for this condition: phantasia, the ability to see what is not there, or perhaps to see what others cannot. Today, we call it overthinking. Society tells us it is a flaw, a disorder, something to be fixed with medication or meditation. But what if overthinking is not a bug in the human system? What if it is a feature? What if the very minds that society labels as too much are actually the ones capable of seeing through the illusions that keep the rest of humanity asleep? The rabbit hole goes deeper than you think. And once you start falling, there is no going back. The overthinker carries a burden that most people will never understand. While others walk through life with the luxury of ignorance, the overthinker sees every shadow, questions every smile, and feels every undercurrent of deception in human interaction. Dr. Susan Nolan-Hoeksema, who spent decades studying repetitive thought patterns, discovered something remarkable. Overthinkers do not just think more, they think differently. Their brains show increased activity in regions associated with self-reflection, future planning, and threat detection. They are constantly scanning the environment for dangers that others miss entirely. This hypervigilance comes at a cost. The overthinker experiences the world in high definition, while everyone else lives in standard resolution. Every conversation becomes a chess match with multiple moves ahead. Every news story becomes a puzzle with missing pieces. Every social interaction becomes a performance where they can see the strings controlling the puppets. Consider the last time you were in a group conversation. While others laughed at surface-level jokes, you were analyzing the power dynamics, the hidden agendas, the careful word choices that revealed more than they concealed. You noticed how person A deflected when asked about their job, how person B's smile never reached their eyes, how person C kept checking their phone as if waiting for an escape route. This awareness extends beyond personal interactions. The overthinker is the person who reads between the lines of every news headline, who questions the timing of every major story, who sees the patterns that connect seemingly unrelated events. They are the ones who ask uncomfortable questions. Why is this story dominating the news cycle? What story is being buried while we focus on this? Who benefits from our attention being directed here? The psychological literature has a term for this: hypervigilance. Originally used to describe trauma responses, it now encompasses a broader range of heightened awareness states. The overthinker lives in a state of perpetual hypervigilance, not because of past trauma, but because of present clarity. This clarity comes with a price. The overthinker often feels isolated, misunderstood, and exhausted. They are the person at the party who sees the sadness behind everyone's masks, the employee who notices the subtle manipulations in corporate communications, the citizen who questions the narratives that everyone else accepts without hesitation. But here is where it gets interesting. Research from the University of California found that people who engage in complex thinking patterns, what we call overthinking, show enhanced problem-solving abilities, greater creativity, and improved long-term decision-making. The very trait that society pathologizes might actually be an evolutionary advantage. The overthinker is not broken. They are awake in a world that prefers to sleep. They are asking questions in a culture that rewards answers. They are seeing depth in a society that celebrates surface. The overthinker possesses a unique ability to detect manipulation. Like a human lie detector, they can sense when they are being sold something, whether it is a product, an idea, or a version of reality that serves someone else's interests. Edward Bernays, the father of public relations and nephew of Sigmund Freud, wrote in 1928, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society." He was not describing a conspiracy theory. He was describing his job. Bernays understood something that the overthinker instinctively knows. Human behavior can be engineered. Thoughts can be planted. Desires can be manufactured. And most people will never realize it is happening. The overthinker sees this machinery in action everywhere. They notice how advertisements do not sell products. They sell insecurities and then offer solutions. They observe how news broadcasts use specific camera angles, music, and word choices to guide emotional responses. They recognize how social media algorithms create echo chambers that feel like personal choice but are actually engineered outcomes. Take the simple act of scrolling through social media. The average person sees a carefully curated feed and believes they are seeing reality. The overthinker sees the manipulation, the posts that are boosted, the voices that are amplified, the content that is suppressed. They understand that their timeline is not a window into the world. It is a funnel designed to shape their worldview. This awareness extends to consumer culture. While others make purchasing decisions based on feelings, the overthinker recognizes the psychological triggers being activated. They see how scarcity marketing creates artificial urgency, how social proof manipulates through fear of missing out, how authority figures are used to bypass critical thinking. The overthinker notices patterns that others miss. They observe how certain stories trend at strategically convenient times, how public attention is directed away from important issues toward trivial controversies, how complex problems are reduced to simple narratives that fit predetermined agendas. Consider the news cycle. A major story breaks on Friday evening, a time when most people are distracted by weekend plans. By Monday, the story has been buried under newer, more sensational content. The overthinker sees this pattern and asks, was the timing accidental? What was happening while everyone was focused on the distraction? They recognize the techniques of neuro-linguistic programming in political speeches, the use of anchoring effects and pricing strategies, the application of cognitive biases in marketing campaigns. What feels like natural decision-making to most people feels like psychological manipulation to the overthinker. This ability to detect manipulation is both a gift and a curse. It provides protection from exploitation, but creates a sense of living in a world where everyone else is sleepwalking through carefully constructed illusions. The overthinker sees how fear is used as a control mechanism, how hope is weaponized for political gain, how identity is commercialized and sold back to consumers as self-expression. They understand that the most effective manipulations are the ones that make people feel like they are making independent choices. Historical examples abound. The overthinker recognizes the same techniques used in wartime propaganda being applied to peacetime consumer culture. They see how the methods developed by intelligence agencies to influence foreign populations are now used by corporations to influence domestic consumers. The psychological term for this is reactance theory, the idea that people have an innate resistance to perceived manipulation. But the overthinker's reactance is heightened. They do not just resist obvious manipulation. They detect the subtle varieties that slip past most people's defenses. This creates a paradox. The overthinker is simultaneously the most resistant to manipulation and the most aware of its pervasive presence. They live in a world where they can see the puppet strings while everyone else believes the puppets are dancing freely. Throughout history, the overthinker has played a crucial role in human progress. They have been the ones who challenged accepted wisdom, questioned authority, and saw through the illusions that kept entire civilizations trapped in ignorance. Yet they have also been the ones who were dismissed, persecuted, and marginalized by the very societies they were trying to help. Galileo Galilei was an overthinker. When everyone else accepted that the Earth was the center of the universe, he questioned the evidence. He spent nights studying the sky, making observations that contradicted centuries of religious doctrine. His reward? House arrest and a lifetime of persecution. The church was not threatened by his telescope. They were threatened by his willingness to think beyond accepted boundaries. Semmelweis was an overthinker. In the 1840s, he noticed that women who gave birth in hospitals died at much higher rates than those who delivered with midwives. He connected this pattern to the fact that doctors performed autopsies before delivering babies without washing their hands. His solution was simple: hand hygiene. The medical establishment ridiculed him, destroyed his career, and drove him to a mental breakdown. He was right, but being right was not enough. The overthinker throughout history has been the person who sees patterns that others miss, who asks questions that others avoid, who challenges systems that others accept. They are the ones who notice that the emperor has no clothes while everyone else admires his magnificent outfit. This pattern repeats across cultures and centuries. The overthinker is the one who questions why certain books are banned, why certain ideas are forbidden, why certain conversations are discouraged. They are the ones who ask, who benefits from keeping us ignorant? What are we not supposed to know? In ancient Athens, Socrates was an overthinker. He wandered the streets asking questions that made people uncomfortable. He challenged assumptions, exposed contradictions, and forced people to examine their beliefs. His method was simple: keep asking why until the foundation of accepted truth crumbled. The Athenian democracy responded by giving him a choice: exile or death. He chose death. The pattern continues into modern times. The overthinker is the journalist who investigates stories that powerful people want buried, the scientist who publishes research that contradicts profitable narratives, the whistleblower who exposes corruption at personal cost. Edward Snowden was an overthinker. He noticed that the surveillance systems he was helping to build were being used not just against foreign enemies, but against American citizens. He saw patterns of abuse that others ignored or accepted. His choice was to stay silent and complicit, or to speak truth and become an exile. He chose exile. The psychological profile of the historical overthinker reveals consistent traits: high intelligence, pattern recognition abilities, moral sensitivity, and a willingness to sacrifice personal comfort for principles. They are driven not by personal gain, but by a compulsion to understand and reveal truth. But here is the paradox: the very societies that eventually benefit from the overthinker's insights are the ones that initially reject them. The medical establishment that once persecuted Semmelweis now teaches hand hygiene as fundamental practice. The scientific community that once condemned Galileo now celebrates his discoveries. The democratic ideals that Socrates died defending are now considered foundational to Western civilization. This creates a psychological burden for the contemporary overthinker. They understand that history validates their approach while their present culture punishes it. They know that the uncomfortable questions they ask today might be the accepted wisdom of tomorrow, but they also know that they might not live to see that vindication. The overthinker in every era faces the same choice: conform to comfortable lies or pursue uncomfortable truths. Those who choose truth often pay a price that others are unwilling to pay. They sacrifice social acceptance, career advancement, and personal peace for the abstract ideal of understanding reality, yet they persist. In every generation, there are those who refuse to accept easy answers, who push against the boundaries of acceptable thought, who ask the questions that others are afraid to ask. They are the immune system of human consciousness. detecting and responding to the viruses of false ideas before they can spread and cause damage. The historical overthinker teaches us that progress requires people who are willing to think beyond the limits of their time, even when that thinking comes at personal cost. They are the ones who move humanity forward, one uncomfortable question at a time. The digital age has created a perfect storm for the overthinker. Never before has so much information been available, yet never before has truth been so difficult to discern. The overthinker finds themselves in a world where their greatest strength, the ability to analyze and question, is both more valuable and more overwhelming than ever before. Social media algorithms are designed to exploit the very traits that define the overthinker. Their tendency to research deeply, to question sources, to seek multiple perspectives, feeds directly into systems designed to capture and monetize attention. The overthinker clicks on that article about government surveillance, and suddenly, their feed is flooded with content about privacy violations, corporate espionage, and digital manipulation. This creates what researchers call information cascade anxiety, the psychological stress that comes from being aware of too many potential threats and problems simultaneously. The overthinker becomes paralyzed not by ignorance, but by knowledge. They see the climate crisis, the political corruption, the corporate manipulation, the social engineering, and the technological surveillance all at once. The modern overthinker faces a unique challenge: how to maintain sanity while remaining awake. Previous generations of overthinkers had limited access to information. They could focus their analytical abilities on local problems or specific areas of expertise. Today's overthinker has access to global information streams that never stop flowing. Consider the simple act of reading news. The average person reads a headline, accepts the basic narrative, and moves on. The overthinker reads the headline, questions the source, researches the funding behind the publication, examines the timing of the story, looks for competing narratives, and traces the information back to its original source. By the time they finish this process, 17 new stories have been published, each demanding the same level of scrutiny. This information overload creates what psychologists call analysis paralysis. The overthinker becomes so aware of the complexity and interconnectedness of modern problems that taking action becomes increasingly difficult. They see how every solution creates new problems, how every movement gets co-opted by special interests, how every cause becomes commercialized and weaponized. The digital age has also created new forms of social isolation for the overthinker. Online communities that appear to be gathering places for deep thinkers often turn out to be echo chambers or manipulation campaigns. The overthinker finds themselves questioning not just the mainstream narratives, but also the alternative narratives that others in their community accept without question. Dating apps reveal how the overthinker's mind works differently. While others swipe based on physical attraction or simple compatibility, the overthinker analyzes profile photos for signs of authenticity, reads between the lines of carefully crafted descriptions, and sees the performative nature of online identity construction. They are looking for genuine connection in a medium designed to commodify human relationships. The workplace presents its own challenges. The overthinker sees how corporate culture uses psychological manipulation to increase productivity, how human resources departments apply behavioral psychology to manage employee satisfaction, how marketing departments use neuroscience to influence consumer behavior. They understand that they are not just employees, but data points and systems designed to optimize human performance for profit. Even entertainment becomes complicated. The overthinker watches a movie and sees the product placements, the propaganda, messages, the psychological conditioning techniques embedded in the narrative. They listen to music and hear the algorithmic patterns designed to trigger neurochemical responses. They play games and recognize the addiction mechanics borrowed from casino psychology. The constant awareness of manipulation creates what researchers call hypervigilance fatigue. The overthinker becomes exhausted from the effort of maintaining critical thinking in a world designed to bypass it. They face a choice: disengage from the systems that exploit their attention or remain engaged and suffer the psychological consequences. This dilemma is compounded by the fact that the overthinker often feels responsible for sharing their insights with others. They see the manipulation, the deception, the hidden agendas, and they feel compelled to warn people. But their warnings are often dismissed as paranoia, conspiracy theories, or pessimism. The modern overthinker must navigate a world where their analytical abilities are both essential and overwhelming. They must find ways to maintain their critical thinking without becoming paralyzed by the complexity of modern life. They must learn to distinguish between productive analysis and destructive rumination. Most importantly, they must find ways to channel their insights into positive action without becoming consumed by the magnitude of the problems they can see so clearly. Time has come to reframe the conversation about overthinking. What if the very trait that society pathologizes is actually one of humanity's most valuable cognitive abilities? What if the overthinker is not suffering from a disorder, but possessing a gift that the world desperately needs? Recent neuroscience research reveals that the brains of overthinkers show enhanced connectivity between regions associated with creativity, problem-solving, and emotional processing. They do not just think more, they think in more complex, interconnected ways. Their neural networks are more robust, their pattern recognition more sophisticated, their ability to synthesize information from multiple sources more developed. Dr. Adam Perkins at King's College London discovered that people who engage in what he calls self-generated thought, what we commonly call overthinking, show increased creativity and innovation. They are the ones who come up with novel solutions to complex problems, who see connections that others miss, who generate ideas that push boundaries. The overthinker's ability to see patterns extends beyond detecting manipulation. They are the ones who connect seemingly unrelated fields of knowledge, who synthesize information from multiple disciplines, who create breakthrough insights by combining ideas that others keep separate. Consider the greatest innovations in human history. The printing press was invented by someone who connected the concept of wine pressing with the need for mass communication. The Internet was developed by people who saw connections between computing, telecommunications, and human networking. Vaccination was discovered by someone who noticed patterns in disease resistance among milkmaids. These breakthroughs required the kind of mind that questions assumptions, sees hidden connections, and thinks beyond conventional boundaries. They required overthinkers. The overthinker's sensitivity to deception makes them natural lie detectors, fraud investigators, and quality control specialists. Their ability to analyze multiple variables simultaneously makes them excellent strategic planners, risk assessors, and systems analysts. Their tendency to question authority makes them natural researchers, journalists, and social critics. But perhaps most importantly, the overthinker serves as society's early warning system. They are the ones who notice problems before they become crises, who identify trends before they become mainstream, who detect dangers before they become disasters. The 2008 financial crisis was predicted by overthinkers who saw the patterns in mortgage lending, debt packaging, and regulatory capture that others missed or ignored. Climate change was identified by overthinkers who connected industrial activity to atmospheric changes decades before it became a mainstream concern. Social media addiction was recognized by overthinkers who understood the psychological mechanisms being deployed before most people even realized they were being manipulated. The overthinker's curse is also their gift. They cannot unsee what they have seen. They cannot unknow what they have learned. They cannot stop questioning what others accept without thought. This makes them uncomfortable to be around, but it also makes them essential to human progress. The key is learning to channel the overthinker's abilities constructively. Instead of being paralyzed by the complexity they perceive, they can use their analytical abilities to create solutions. Instead of being isolated by their awareness, they can find others who share their commitment to truth and understanding. The overthinker needs to understand that their mind is not broken. It is simply operating at a higher resolution than most people can handle. They are not too sensitive. They are appropriately sensitive to a world that has become desensitized to its own problems. If you are an overthinker, you have a responsibility to use your abilities wisely. Your pattern recognition skills are needed to solve complex problems. Your ability to detect deception is needed to maintain accountability. Your willingness to question assumptions is needed to prevent stagnation, but you also have a responsibility to yourself. You must learn to manage the psychological burden of awareness without losing the analytical abilities that make you valuable. You must find ways to remain engaged with the world without becoming overwhelmed by its complexity. The world needs overthinkers now more than ever. In an age of information warfare, manufactured consent, and algorithmic manipulation, the ability to think critically and see through deception is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Your overthinking is not a bug in your psychological software. It is a feature that humanity needs to survive and thrive in an increasingly complex world. The journey through the psychology of the overthinker reveals a fundamental truth. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not suffering from a disorder that needs to be cured. You are experiencing the world through a lens that most people cannot access, and that perspective is both a gift and a responsibility. The overthinker exists at the intersection of blessing and burden. You see what others cannot see, understand what others cannot understand, and feel what others cannot feel. This awareness comes with a price, but it also comes with a purpose. You are the ones who ask the questions that others are afraid to ask. You are the ones who notice the patterns that others miss. You are the ones who refuse to accept easy answers to complex problems. You are the immune system of human consciousness, detecting and responding to the viruses of false ideas before they can spread and cause damage. The world needs your analytical abilities now more than ever. In an age where information is weaponized, where attention is commodified, where truth is negotiable, your ability to think critically and see through deception is essential to human survival and progress. But with great awareness comes great responsibility. You must learn to channel your overthinking constructively rather than destructively. You must find ways to remain engaged with the world without becoming overwhelmed by its complexity. You must develop the psychological resilience to carry the burden of awareness without losing hope for positive change. The key is finding balance. Use your analytical abilities to solve problems, not just to identify them. Channel your pattern recognition skills toward creating solutions, not just detecting problems. Transform your awareness of manipulation into strategies for authentic communication and genuine connection. Connect with others who share your commitment to truth and understanding. You are not alone in your experience of hyperawareness. There are others who see what you see, who question what you question, who refuse to accept the comfortable lies that keep most people asleep. Remember that throughout history, the overthinkers have been the ones who moved humanity forward. They paid the price for their insights, but their contributions became the foundation for human progress. You stand in a long line of people who chose uncomfortable truth over comfortable fiction. Your overthinking is not a weakness to be overcome. It is a strength to be developed. Your sensitivity is not a problem to be solved. It is a gift to be shared. Your awareness is not a burden to be carried alone. It is a responsibility to be exercised wisely. The world will try to convince you that you are too much, that you think too deeply, that you ask too many questions. Do not listen. Keep questioning. Keep analyzing. Keep seeing through the illusions that keep others trapped in ignorance. But also remember to take care of yourself. Your mind is a precision instrument that requires maintenance. Find ways to rest your analytical abilities without losing them. Develop practices that allow you to remain grounded while staying aware. You are the awakened mind in a sleeping world. That is both your burden and your gift. Use it wisely. Asterisk. If this resonates with you, if you recognize yourself in these words, if you understand the burden and the gift of overthinking, then you are part of a community of awakened minds. Share this with others who need to hear it. Subscribe for more content that challenges conventional wisdom and explores the depths of human consciousness. And remember, your overthinking is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be shared.